These are the top 3 busiest airports in Poland: Warsaw, Krakow, Gdansk. Let's look at the fastest routes to these cities from different parts of Poland. As we can see, Warsaw is the only city located in the center of its zone of influence. Residents of Wrocław have to spend more than 3 hours to get to Krakow. And residents of Poznan have to travel to Gdansk for even longer. These cities are the 4th and 5th most populous, respectively. So it is obvious that this location for the 3 main airports or logistics centers is not optimal, and even without precise calculations, it is clear that there should be a more convenient city with an airport for Western cities. In this video, I checked the fastest routes among the top 100 Polish cities by population, found the optimal location for 1, 2, 3, or more airports or logistics hubs, and will show you the routes connecting them. You are on Albert Romanski channel, and we are starting a long series of videos about the best locations and routes within countries around the world. So let's start by looking for the optimal location for the first and single airport or warehouse in Poland. I'll begin by examining the capital and largest city, Warsaw. The first thing that struck me was how similar the road network is to a river system. Quite often, the fastest route initially takes you in a completely different direction from your destination. For example, residents of Lubin first have to drive through the city of Legnica and only then continue on to Wrocław, where a faster highway is available. To evaluate the optimality of a particular city, I will use an indicator such as the number of hours spent traveling for each resident. For example, it takes about 3 hours and 42 minutes to get from Wrocław to Warsaw. If we multiply this time by the population, we get 2,480,000 hours. According to this indicator, Wrocław is number 1 in comparison with Warsaw. Next comes Krakow, Szczecin, and so on. In total, to get to Warsaw once, residents of the top 100 cities in Poland need to spend almost 39 million hours of their time. Let's remember this number and try to manually find a more optimal option. Visually, it's clear that Warsaw is shifted further east, while Łódź appears more centrally located, so I choose Łódź, and indeed, it is 6% more optimal than Warsaw. It takes an average of 15 minutes less to get to Łódź than to Warsaw. But is Łódź truly the best option? To find out, I would need to evaluate other smaller cities in the surrounding area. That process is interesting, but also time-consuming. So instead, I took a script that automatically clusters cities and identifies the most optimal location. As a result, Piotrków-Trybunalski emerges as the most optimal city. The total number of hours spent is 35.6 million, which is 3.5% better than in Łódź, and on average 9 minutes faster. Indeed, it is an hour and a half from here to Warsaw and the Katowice agglomeration, which are the most populated areas in Poland. Wrocław, Poznan, Krakow, Bydgoszcz, and even Lublin are also within 3 hours. Only for residents of the West Coast will the travel time exceed 5 hours. What if we consider the 2 most optimal locations instead of just one? This is where things get actually interesting. From a combinatorics perspective, in our case there are 4,950 possible pairs of cities. Obviously, I'm not going to test all of them manually. Instead, I'll use intuition and basic logic to narrow the choices down to 2 promising cities, and then evaluate them using a script. Try to pick your own pair along with me, and afterward we'll check together how optimal your choice really is. First, I'll roughly divide the country into eastern and western regions. Warsaw will serve as the center for the east, and Poznan for the west. In this setup, the total travel time comes out to 30.8 million hours, which is only 13% better than using Piotrków-Trybunalski alone. That's a strong indication that the solution isn't optimal. So how can we improve the result? This table shows the top cities with the highest number of hours lost. Krakow and Gdansk are in the top positions, so I will try to move my points closer to these cities. For example, like this. It's a little better. But now, the main costs are in Warsaw, Wrocław, and Krakow. So now, move the point from Bydgoszcz eastward to Włocławek to pick up Warsaw, and move the other point south to the Katowice agglomeration, as it will be closer to Wrocław and Krakow. This option is much better. It seems that one point should be somewhere in this area, and the other among the cities of the Katowice agglomeration. I will find them using a script. So, the most optimal location for the 2 points would be Pryszków and Ruda Śląska. This surprises me a little, because visually, I would never divide the territory of Poland this way. What's especially interesting is that Pryszków is essentially a satellite city of Warsaw. At first glance, it seems like choosing Warsaw instead wouldn't make any difference. But the results show something surprising. Szczecin and nearby cities actually get assigned to the Ruda Śląska region, because traveling there is a few minutes faster than going to Warsaw. Look at how this single adjustment completely transforms the overall numbers and the city-level results. Let's move on and search for a third point. Now, the highest travel costs are concentrated in this region, so the third point should probably be somewhere near the city of Pila. Visually, it looks like a good choice, but I was concerned by the average travel speed to Pila. It's only about 75 kilometers per hour, compared to roughly 90 kilometers per hour for the other 2 points. This suggests that Pila is relatively far from major highways. Next, I'll try using Bydgoszcz as the third point. This should also reduce travel time for residents of the Gdansk metropolitan area. And it works. The total travel hours drop, and the average speed rises to 81 kilometers per hour. In my view, this 3-point layout already looks close to optimal. Nearly every city in Poland can now be reached from one of these 3 hubs within 3 hours. Still, the setup needs to be validated with a script. Wow, I almost nailed it. The only adjustment needed is replacing Pryszków with Warsaw. So, Warsaw, Ruda Śląska, and Bydgoszcz turn out to be the most optimal locations for the 3 points. On average, it takes about 1 hour and 35 minutes to reach one of them. Now, it's time to find a fourth point. My reasoning is this. At the moment, Bydgoszcz has the highest total travel time, the lowest average speed, and the smallest share of the surrounding population. That tells me the next improvement should focus on rebalancing routes in this yellow area. So what are the options? I'll try shifting the point from Bydgoszcz closer to the Gdansk metropolitan area and place the fourth point somewhere in this region. At first glance, it looks promising, but I'm concerned that Wrocław still ranks highest in travel costs, even though it's relatively close to Głogów. As with Pila earlier, this likely means Głogów is located away from major highways. So I won't take up your time and will use a script to find the optimal points. The best 4-point setup turns out to be Warsaw, Katowice, Gdansk, and Leszno. Overall, this is very close to my initial intuition. On average, it now takes about 1 hour and 24 minutes to reach the nearest hub. For the fifth location, it's clear that the Leszno area needs to be optimized. I think the only realistic option is to split it between Wrocław and Poznań. I ran the script, and yes, this turns out to be the most optimal configuration for 5 locations in Poland. Even so, Krakow still doesn't make the list, which I find surprising. I also don't quite understand why Katowice Airport handles significantly fewer passengers than Krakow. I went further and calculated the optimal placements for 6, 7, and more locations. With 6 points, Poznan splits into Szczecin and Bydgoszcz. With 7, Bydgoszcz is effectively replaced by Poznan and Łódź, and only at 8 points does Krakow finally get added. What's interesting is that as the number of locations increases, the core list of major cities stays almost the same. Typically, one city is either split into 2 nearby cities, or a single new city is added. At the same time, each additional point delivers smaller and smaller gains in total travel time. So, if you're the Polish government planning a single mega airport for the entire country, Piotrków Trybunalski is the best choice. If you're an entrepreneur looking to place 2 or 3 strategic distribution warehouses, the optimal options are Pryszków and Ruda Śląska, or Warsaw, Ruda Śląska, and Bydgoszcz, respectively. And if you're building a long-term expansion strategy across Poland, your locations should be opened in this order: Warsaw, Katowice, Gdansk, Poznan, Wrocław. So, if you open one location per year, the total travel time over 5 years will be about 120 million hours. But if you instead open 5 locations in the 5 most populous cities, the total travel time over the same period will be 10% higher. Before we finish, let's take a look at the least optimal city. And that's Kołobrzeg. On average, it takes about 5 hours and 36 minutes for a Polish resident to drive there, which is nearly twice as long as the trip to Piotrków Trybunalski. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like it, leave a comment, or support the channel through the sponsorship button. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.